an overshare if we were to categorize it. And
Not a bad thing.
no, no, I mean, as a guy too, you realize how rare that is as a
Yeah.
dad. But I found comfort and I shared everything too often. And so I just wanted people to know my story, especially having started in a new career and a new
Hmm.
business with new people that had never met VN. And that was really hard. There's some comfort in sticking around supportive people who actually knew your daughter, uh, your kid.
What's been the most surprising thing to you in this experience of losing a child?
Uh, I think that goes back to probably being a dad who's lost a child. Is what's surprising is how uncomfortable others are in talking about your loss and your grief and your journey, to the point where even if you develop a I don't know, a confidence to talk about your kid, because we will always say we have two kids. One of them's right here, and the other one's not with us right now. And you work really hard in order to have those answers and share that with you know even your friends and your family, to share with them honestly, but let
Hmm.
alone strangers. But man, people get really uncomfortable really quick, and it's just a bummer because everybody likes to talk about their kids.
Yeah. So
So
how do you negotiate through that? And you may negotiate it in different ways depending on different circumstances and different people. But um, what would you offer to others that are dealing with the same thing?
sure. No, and my wife and I approach that very differently. She wants to have the safety first, and then she'll
Hmm.
share. I'm a little bit more bullheaded, and I share, and then see how they react. And if they're nice and good about it, and compassionate about it, then we can talk more. And if they're not, then you put them in a box and say, okay, well, you don't deserve to know more
Hmm.
about my kids, and I'm sorry. Hopefully, you might grow into that for somebody else someday. But that's a wonderful, and I would say for sure that there were some other parents at Ohana Oasis that did. This was their first time being with a group of people where you get to share everything and anything that you're comfortable with, and it can be this much or it can be this much, but you it's safe. It's a safe space.
Did you feel like there was a certain freedom in being able to share and talk about VN just like you would Ivy? That like it didn't have to be some big heavy thing that caused angst. You could like say something that she did or memory in passing, just like people typically talk about their children that are alive.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't say it better than how you just phrased it. It was wonderful to be able to talk about both of our kids, because we love them equally, and they're both a part of our lives.
Do you think that there is any way for you to be able to do that in your day to day life when you're not with other bereaved parents?
Uh, Again, I think with time, as you've discovered as well, is you find your people who are okay with it, and you
Mm,
find the ones who aren't, and it's just another filter that's in your life that nobody can see, but it's there. I mean,
yeah.
you're always a parent who's lost a kid, which is, I've only been able to compare it really to like an amputation. You've
Oh,
lost a
yeah.
part of yourself that nobody can see, but you've always lost it.
Right.
So
What's been the biggest ongoing struggle over the years?
I think the biggest ongoing struggle is the more as daily life goes on, the more people you meet, the different job you might have, the friends and family that you wax and wane in relationships on, you start to meet more and more people who never knew your kid,
Hmm.
and so they only know her, them as a story or a name or through pictures and videos. And thankfully, we have a lot of those. Jenny kept a website blog going for a few years, which was nice to be able to use as a resource. But that's it. It's just that there's something different about those that actually got to walk and talk with Vienne versus those who have only heard her name and seen a picture. It's hard. It just internalizes those thoughts and feelings more. The support that we have, that we found through existing friendships and also some new ones, those got deeper and stronger. And so I think there's no greater filter that a relationship can walk through, whether it's friends, family, or partner, than the loss of a child. But I have some, like I said, I've got some great guy friends that I've had for a long, long time. And, without a few of them in particular being consistent and being a safe place for me to talk or call. Sometimes you just call and say it's a hard day. Mm-hmm. And you don't need to say anything else. Just, it's a hard day. And to hear somebody say, I get it, or man, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm here for you.
Yeah, there's not really much that somebody can say except for to demonstrate that they love you and they've got you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was another question you're going to ask that would have led me to that is, man, the more words you say, the more chance you have of going wrong.
Absolutely. So what would you say that people should do or say?
Stand by them. Let them know you're there. And the people that have stood by us over the years, and we would put a Facebook post or picture out on Vienne's birthday, or the anniversary of her death. And, it's silly that you get comfort out of how many likes you get, but that's also the world we live in. Sure. And every little thumbs up it's funny, and how it just made you think, oh, they remember us and they're thinking about us. And which would also have this weird twist of, it's like, oh, look, everybody's thinking about us and Vienne 2 days a year, which it's funny, after 9 years, those end up being the less hard days because you have all that support versus, the other 363 days of the year, you walk alone or with your family.
Did you find the second year to be harder in some ways because now you're recognizing I'm not just powering through the first December 15th, the first December 17th, but now I have to recognize and acknowledge that this is my new normal and that nothing is going back. This is it. This is my life.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And also, your support group month by month winnows down. They move on with their lives as well. And hopefully those people, if I were to give advice to the third parties out there that want to help, I would say just you need to continually let them know that you're there for them as a judgment-free zone, as a non-advice zone. We rarely need advice because we're already walking the hardest path.
Right.
It's just be there.
Well, and I would say a common thread from all of the parents that I've been around is there is no advice that somebody has not walked that path can give you that you're going to find worthwhile. Like there's a certain amount of, you have to have the street cred before you can give me any kind of advice when it comes to this.
Yeah, for every bit of advice you're tempted to offer, I would rather say ask 5 questions.
I love that. That is great advice, because what you're doing is you're allowing space and freedom for the grieving parent to be able to share what they want to share. And oftentimes it's going to be about their child. So yeah. I think that's a beautiful piece of advice. Very specific questions, because you say, oh, tell me about Vienne. Like, okay, well, I've got an ocean of answers to give you. I don't know what to pick or really where to go. And when you can ask a question, it spurs you on, and you might go on to another story that has nothing to do with the question, but it gets you going and gives you direction.
Yeah, I love it when people would ask. Those are the best. When I meet somebody new and we talk about the end, the people who ask questions like, "What was her favorite color? What was
Yeah,
what was her favorite this? What was her favorite that?" Man, then I know I've met somebody cool.
it
Like
totally
you get to come into my circle.
it totally changes the relationship, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, I've had friends, like you've talked about, the further out you get, the more people that come into your life that never knew your child. And I have had friends that said, I never knew Allison, and I would love to hear about her. So whenever you want to share, let's do that, or pull out the photo album and tell me about her. And like as soon as somebody does that, they're in. Like I would like for especially those that have not lost a child to hear this. How long does it take to actually get out of that dark place and that intense grief?
There's no answer for that. That's a trick question.
I would say out of that
I,
acute stage.
yeah, there's no answer. And there's nothing wrong with that, of course. We're there as long as we're there.
Yeah.
And
I think,
if you want to be a friend, just be available.
would you say that it's a couple of years though, that where you need a lot more than you even realize you need at the time?
Yeah, another thing that I've shared before that is held true over the last 9 years is, realizing at some point that, the day that Vienne passed away was also, I, the person that I was, the Mark that I was also passed away.
Mm,
He died.
yeah.
Whatever path I was on didn't exist anymore. And so
Yeah.
there is this, not only is there, if I were to put it in two stages, there's survival and then there's self-discovery. So you survive the trauma, and then you have to realize that you're a different person, and you got to
Yeah.
figure out who you are. But for friendships and for family relationships, family probably is one of the biggest ones, because you got parents and siblings and relatives who more than anything want to help, but they want to do the advice thing, and you got to tell them to slow down.
Yeah.
You have a new person here, and he's discovering who that new person is, and I'm going to make some mistakes. I'm going to make some bad decisions um, before I make some good decisions.
I really like that you're talking about on several fronts that you are a new person and you're an evolving person that doesn't even know who you are really. And that friendships and, family relationships are very much going to evolve and change. And especially with friendships, you may not have the same friendships when you look 5 years later.
Yeah.
Very different friend group, most likely.
I feel like I lucked out. I would say maybe one of the more personal things is, as a guy, it's been really hard to make new friendships
Mm-hmm.
since that moment. We have a church community, and it's been hard to find a new church community because I don't know, it's hard to share your story and find the empathy that you would expect to find. That's our story. I hope that others are more successful in it, but and I think a therapist would quantify it with the word boundaries.
You learn boundaries, don't you?
You gotta have your boundaries.
Yep. Yeah. What do you wish someone had told you at the beginning of your journey through grief?
We've talked about the advice thing. We got a lot. People will say what they think are the kindest things that will strike you the most cruelly,
Mm-hmm.
and you just gotta forgive and forget. They don't know. They're trying. They're failing. You don't have to tell them they're failing, or you might. If they're close and they're going to stay in your life, you should probably
Yeah.
say that's probably not a good thing to say. And if they're also, I think one bit of advice is, there are people that will come out of the woodworks, and they'll come for a hug and they want to support you, and you're like, gosh, we were never such close friends before, but this person is like, they're sending flowers and texts and notes and doing all these wonderful things. Um, if they disappear in a couple months, try not to take it too personally, because they're probably trauma hopping.
Yeah.
There will be hopefully not many, but there will definitely be one. And you just got to let them move on and not take it as hard as it is. It's going to hurt, but they're out there, and that's just, I don't know. It's their heart. They're trying to do the right thing, but they're kind of addicted to trauma. So that's probably one thing that nobody warned me about very well.
And for the ones that you know that they mean well and trying to forgive and all of that, one of the pieces that a lot of people talk about is that you don't have the emotional capacity at the beginning to hold the space and work through the relationships and educate those other people. So how do you negotiate, like, having your boundaries of like, I don't have it in me to tell you what and how and to forgive right now, but then also in the long run, knowing that you need to do that, or that you should. You don't need to do anything.
That's a question I don't know that I know the answer to, other than try and just tuck it away. Just remember that for the future when it happens. And like I said, don't try not to take it too personally, and however you want to react to it. It's just hard. People are people.
Yes. Yeah.
There's good ones. There's good short-term ones. There's good long-term ones. And hopefully you know how and when to engage the different types and draw strength from them with what they're giving. Maybe that's the thing, is just say, hey man, you're in a grieving place. Take what you can take. Use what you can use. Don't feel guilty about it. Obviously, you're not being abusive. People want to help you and support you. But yeah, maybe that's a good way of saying it or summarizing it. Be okay receiving.